All right. Hello. Welcome back to another video in my kind of resiliency preparedness uh, series, or like kind of was it life risk management. Um, so I kind of looked online on planning what some of the uh, most common risks are and ranking it in order from top to bottom or from uh, least likely to happen to most likely to happen, and came up with 8 reasons. So we'll kind of get right into it. The very first is global catastrophic events. Um, these could be anywhere from nuclear war, civil war, um, alien invasion, if you wanted to plan for that. It could also be for an asteroid, severe uh, like stuff that is probably least likely to happen, uh, and to the point where even though it might be kind of fun to plan, um, ain't that much you can do for an asteroid. Probably not that much you can do for a alien invasion, civil war. You can choose to participate in it and not, but you know, not much you can do there. And kind of same thing with a nuclear war, unless you're the dude pushing the button, like like it's gonna the decisions are gonna happen regardless of whether you want it or not. And uh, however fun it is to plan for, that should be the least of your worries. We'll just say that. So number 7, major terrorist attacks. These could be relatively common. Uh, it could be anything from the 9/11 terrorist attack to all the knife attacks, cars driving over people, stuff like. These are legitimate terrorist attacks, and um, I'll probably do a video on how to try to avoid some of that as much as possible. But again, um, some of the stuff that's least likely to happen, regardless of how I don't know what the word to use, just how big of a deal is. Like the bigger deal it is, um, the harder it's going to be to plan for, and with that, the more expensive it's going to be to plan for, and you just can't legitimately, or you can't realistically completely avoid it because it's just one of those things that's just going to happen. So number 6, this we're getting a little bit closer, and this is basically natural disasters. They're still relatively rare. Geographically, you can kind of avoid a lot of the stuff depending on where you live, but this includes earthquakes, volcanoes if you're around them, severe weather like tornadoes, hurricanes, all those the earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, and flooding are probably the big ones in the United States. Depending on where you are, volcanoes could be an issue if you're kind of in an exposed area in Washington, Oregon, or even Hawaii. But yeah, generally the first 4, those are the ones that you're going to have to plan for, and even then, it's geographically dependent. Like in Texas, depending on like where you are, if you're on the coast, like around Houston, you're going to have to plan for hurricanes if you're and flooding. If you're in like the Great Plains states or northern Texas, you'll probably have to plan more for tornadoes, severe weather, maybe some flooding, light flooding. If you're in California, you'll have to plan for all that, to include fires. Everybody has seen the fires recently in LA, so those are relatively common in that part of the country, um, as well as earthquakes. So, but if you wanted to avoid earthquakes, you can come to Texas, where the ground's so wet, we're just going to slosh around. If you wanted to avoid hurricanes, you could probably go to the Midwest states. Probably not going to get hurricanes. Might get severe snowstorms, But if you don't like snow, you can come down to Florida or Texas. So it's easier to kind of manage and prepare for, and a lot more realistic. Um, okay, number five, uh, significant cyber attacks, and I think this will probably get more popular as time goes on. But we're using technology all the time, even though we don't really think we are, to the point where when AWS um, goes down in a certain region, a lot of websites just stop working. And these websites aren't just Twitter or X or things like that. It could be if the government hosts Social Security administration websites there that could potentially affect payments. Like any number of things. Like it's so pervasive that a significant cyber attack could really hamper things. We have weak critical infrastructure. Hospitals are critical infrastructure, electric grid, uh, and it's all susceptible. And like I was just that story I heard where we're filing paperwork for federal workers retiring, and they're going down into like a 1950s style elevator into a limestone cave, and there's just racks and racks and racks of paperwork, and it's not the ability to follow the paperwork that limits how many people can actually retire, but I guess it's the speed that the elevator actually goes up and down. But you would think in this day and age, and being $14 trillion in debt, that the government would have at least spent a few shekels on actually having a website and a database to do some of that stuff properly. But I guess that's too much to ask. Okay, reason number four is job loss or significant income disruption. This can kind of go hand in hand with the fifth topic of cyber attack, but in general, economic things could affect your job. I think the last couple of years, a lot of IT, computer developer or software developers, stuff like that, they've been affected. If you're a government worker, yeah, don't rely on the government. I think that's kind of gotten too big anyway, but that's a different topic. But significant job loss, you could have been a really good worker, and someone just arbitrarily makes a decision and says, hey, we need a reduction in force. That's happened in the military. We have to fight, to stay in, and it gets harder and harder and harder each enlistment. Like we signed contracts for 4 years. And even in my job, ultimately, that's kind of why I got out. It wasn't, I think had I gotten a promotion, I probably would have stayed in for at least another 4. But it gets to the point on some MLSs where you're literally waiting for someone to either die or retire to get promoted, and that's kind of what happened to me. And I had to get out at 20. But yeah, that's pretty common in certain industries. Like if you're a farmer, like if you don't plant it the right way, you make a lot of money in the middle of the summer, but you won't make much during the winter unless you plan. So moving on. So the third reason is like a major health emergencies. These are heart attacks, strokes. It kind of goes hand in hand with the job loss or significant loss of income. If you have a heart attack, a stroke, or anything like that, even racking up medical debt, that's pretty common. It's probably more common than job loss if you look at it number wise. So that's a scenario to plan for. Number 2, car accidents. Lots of people getting in car accidents, whether they are at fault or not. It's usually there's 2 people or 2 parties, 2 cars in a car crash. But that's even more common than major health events. again, it could be injury or death if you're not prepared. Significant loss of income or medical debt, all that, all those unfortunate things. So that's number two. And all right, so the number one is just domestic accidents and everyday health events. This is aging. This is people just discovering that they have different diseases, viruses, limitations, uh, and most of it is just a natural cause of getting older. Um, but it's not just that. It's um, you're trying to clean the gutters. You fall off the roof or you fall off the ladder. It's trying to hang up, I don't know, a picture frame and it falls and hits you on your head. Now you need stitches. It's um, catching your house on fire with candles, not blowing them out. The list goes on. So domestic accidents and everyday health events, the number one thing that you should be planning for. Most of these, if you just take caution or 3 points of contact, just all these little things. Don't let candles burn overnight. Don't smoke in your bed. All the common things that we hear about. You can mostly avoid all this stuff relatively easy and near free. So that's how the list tends to go. The number 8 on the list was alien invasion, global nuclear war. You can't do anything about it, and even if you want to mitigate the risks, it's going to cost you everything. The only ones that seem to be able to afford something like that are the super duper rich billionaires that buy nuclear silos or burrow into mountains, and good luck. But it goes all the way. It's a spectrum for what is the least likely to happen and the most expensive and complicated, and the ones that you have the least control over, to the ones that happen all the time, you do have control over, and it's the least expensive to mitigate. It's potentially free. So, okay, that's a list. I will try to work on. I already did a video on how to try to mitigate from job loss or significant income reduction. So I'll try to go through some of these, continue on in this series on how to stay resilient, life risk management plan. But yeah, if you like the video, give a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe if you like it, and then if you could think of anything else that wasn't on this list, leave a comment, and maybe we can discuss it in a second video. So, all right, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.